And welcome to Praeternatural Mysteries with your host, Ivotres and Dr. Lovey. We will take a closer look into the paranormal, supernatural, and the unexplained. But before we get into that, how are you doing, Dr. Lovey?
Wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm so excited about our topic tonight. It's one of those topics that everyone talk about, and it's the Amityville Horror. Just everything about it is just terrifying. I can't imagine what happened that night. But I mean, when you hear Amityville Horror, Dr. Lovey, what do you think? Like
haunted house.
Yes.
Haunted house. The devil's made me do it. Murder of the entire family.
Yeah, that's a very tragic event. And there's so much mystery about that because people for years, forever have been trying to figure out why did it happen, and is the house really haunted, or was he just crazy? Is there an Indian burial ground? I mean, there's so many stories and theories about that, but we have our own stories and theories, and some truths, some based on what we read is some truth, some research, some stuff like that, and we'll get into that. So are you ready, Dr. Lovey, to get into the
We've done our
Amity Horror House? So we're not going to talk about the movie. We will bring it up much later, but we're going to talk about the theories behind it. How did it happen? Why did it happen? Could it have happened? Was he crazy? And that was Robert Defoe Jr. A tragic event. It was November 13th, 1974. 23-year-old Ronald Defoe Jr. slaughtered his entire family, 2 brothers, 2 sisters, his mom and his dad. And he said later, once he got caught, the devil made him do it, or voices in his head told him to do it. That is unbelievable. Just, I mean, could that happen? What do you think?
It's not unbelievable at all. It's been the cause of many murders, or at least the motive that people claim are the murders. There are several times that people black out, do not remember their actions, and seem to have been controlled by another entity.
Yes, we have encountered that in many different movies, many different stories. But me, it's hard to believe it. It's hard to believe that could ever happen. I mean, he could have had a psychosis. He could have been, schizo, possibly had some kind of medical condition. Because back then, a lot of people just threw people into asylums and didn't, there wasn't enough medical research on stuff like that during that time. So he could have had a medical problem and no one could have seen it. I mean, could that been possible?
He was a 23-year-old, still partying with his friends, still enjoying a girlfriend, hated his parents, was doing LSD and heroin. He was a young 20-year-old. We've all done it. We're still living fast. We still think we're immortal. We're mixing a lot of substances that we probably shouldn't, but that's how you learn. Mm-hmm. And so I do not lean towards the evidence that he was psychotic. I do lean towards the evidence that he was partying hard and was most likely coming down from a high or still involved in a high when he committed the crimes.
Yeah, that is a possible thing that could have happened. The people in the house, okay, the Defoes, they lived in the house for years. They moved in, I believe, in 1965.
Correct?
Yeah, they moved in 1965, and they didn't have any occurrences or reported occurrences. They didn't report anything. However, until there were certain things that did happen in the house that was mentioned to different priests and stuff, but no one really acted on it the way they should have.
Now, if we listen to the Warren files, Ed and Lorraine, they claimed that the Ronald Defoe Sr. had started becoming incredibly religious several months before his demise. His friends, his neighbors wondered why he was putting up spiritual objects and statues. He had gone to Canada and gone to a monastery and brought home several relics to put around his house, and the neighbors thought that was very strange for a man that he had a auto body shop.
So do you think at that point maybe he saw something that his family couldn't see? I mean, he could have, like a cleansing, because there were cases that I used to watch, because I used to watch Forensic Files all the time, where a man became religious as well. He started going to the church a lot and things like that. And his family, he saw, was uncleansed. So he decided to wipe out his entire family, move away, and have a whole new family that he could cleanse to make sure they were pure. So could that have been a possible thing going on with Robert here?
Those people are called family annihilators. And
I mean, Ronald. I said Ronald.
Yeah, they'll take out their entire family, sometimes even the pets. But this is Ronald Sr., not Ronald Jr., who committed the crimes. This is Ronald Sr.
Oh, we're talking about, I heard Jr.
I'm so sorry. So Ronald Sr.,
yeah,
several months before he died, was shot by his son. He got real religious real fast and started putting statues all over the house. When his neighbors asked him why, he said that he had the devil on his back. That was the only thing he ever said to the neighbors. Now, there is a theory that the son pulled a gun on his father because they were known to fight excessively.
Yes.
Growing up. And there's a theory that the son probably attempted murder several months prior to actually committing the murders.
Yes. And also that he may have drugged the family.
That is definitely what the police on site thought happened.
Because the way they were killed, it just seemed like any defense.
Right. They weren't trying to defend themselves. They were all found face down in their beds. None of the neighbors heard any shotguns. They only heard the dog barking, Shaggy, at about 3 a.m. And only evidence shows that Dawn actually was awake prior to her demise. Dawn, what was she, the 18-year-old female daughter?
Mm-hmm. So, see, that's puzzling. How would the neighbors not hear anything? I mean, that's 6 gunshots.
Right.
How
7.
Oh, 7. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
7. How can you not hear that? And 2, if 2 of the kids were in the same room, wasn't it?
Yes, the boys slept together, but it's 7 gunshots because the mother actually had 2 different bullet casings in her. It was something that was found later on.
Okay. But then that doesn't, I don't know. Because if you're in there and someone shoots, someone's going to wake up and you're going to pop up. You're going to look up. Unless they were laying on their backs and then they look up, but they're still on their stomach. I mean, I've done that. I've looked up and still laying flat on my stomach and then take a shot, but not even a get up or try to get away or hanging off the bed or running. I mean,
with the exception of Dawn and the mother, whose bodies seem to have put up a struggle. Nobody can figure out why everyone else just kind of took the shot. I could understand like the youngest ones being scared and cowering, staying in their bed. Mm-hmm. Little kids tend to pull the covers up over their head and think that that's what's going to keep them safe.
Yeah.
But obviously the father was shot first, according to what Ronald Jr. said eventually. Then the mother was shot. Dawn seems to have been shot last.
So based on what I've read here, some believe, if not all believe, that he was just a psychopath. Like he was just crazy. But then what made him crazy? I mean, that's the question that no one seemed to follow, because later during his trial, once he got convicted, he was saying, oh no, there was no devil. There was nothing like that. So it's like, okay, now
at no point in Ronald Jr.'s story did he ever say that it was paranormal. He thought that he heard his parents discussing that they were going to kill him. And in all fairness, if he had taken a shot at his father several months prior, his father had mafia ties. They may have been planning on getting rid of him or getting him out of the house. He may have been paranoid from LSD and heroin. The night before the killings, he and Dawn and several friends were, one of the stories says that they were getting high in the basement about 1 o'clock in the morning.
There's more questions than answers in this.
Yeah,
because
wonderful.
no one seemed to know what the hell happened in that house. It's just when the police walk in and what they found. I mean, there may have been a struggle with the mom, but the dad just was blown away and just laying there. And then you got his two sisters that just, no, it doesn't seem like any struggle. Even if there was one shot, one should have tried to get away. And then you got the two brothers that just, they're all laid out on, you know, on their bellies and just laying there. And he just happened to walk down the street to a bar and say, hey, something happened at the house. And then it's like, oh yeah, I did that.
Right. So the killings occurred 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning. He showered, went to work, went to a girlfriend's house, got high, came home, and then went to the bar and claimed somebody shot my parents. Come help, come help. But there's a phone at his house, so he never picked up that phone to call the police. He went down to the bar that he used to drink at, where he knew people, and they all rushed back. Some people from the bar called the police, and there's transcripts of the talk with the police. And then sometime he was taken down to the precinct, and eventually his story changed. And his story changed so many times, but we can go through each iteration.
Well, one of the stories that I did read saying that he had an accomplice, that he didn't take the shots. He tried to prevent the shots, but she went on to kill. I didn't get her name.
Has claimed that Dawn was the one that killed all the children. One of his stories, I'm not sure in which succession. The first story was that a mafia person came into the house with 2 accomplices and killed his family. The second story was that the mafia person came into the house with 2 accomplices and forced Ronald to murder his family. One of his other stories was that they were all getting high in the basement, Dawn and 2 or 3 of his friends, I'm not sure, and that they all conceived of the idea of killing the parents because Dawn and Ronald, 23 and 18, hated their parents, felt like their lives were being stifled, would love to have had the house, would love to have had the $200,000 life insurance policy that went along with it. So that one story goes that they all plotted to kill the parents, went upstairs, shot the father while he was asleep, shot the mother when she woke up. She did not die. And that's why his friend shot with a pistol, which is why she had 2 different types of casings in her. And then one of the friends freaked out and ran out the door. Ron followed him. When Ron came back, he claims that Dawn had shot the remaining children, the 2 boys and the 1 remaining girl. And those were ages Allison 13, Mark 12, and John Matthew 9. Then shot Dawn, had a struggle with her and shot her because he was angry that she would have killed. That wasn't part of the plan, was what he says.
Well, I could see that there, you know, the theory of having an accomplice can be possible because that means someone could have been in the room with the kids. Someone could be in the room with his parents. So that's why no one fleed, because if you hear a gunshot in one room, I'm out of there. Like I'm getting up, running to the parents' room or, you know, standing up and what was that? But they seem to be all just laid out like with no struggle except for the mom. So each room could have someone in there.
It's absolutely
true. And telling the kids, don't move, lay down.
Yeah.
And then just
be quiet.
Yeah, be quiet, don't move, and lay down.
About it. Yeah.
And then just shot. But then, I mean, is it possible to detect the times of shots? Because you know how if you shoot someone, the blood does something, the wound does something, bugs come or whatever. And then what do you think it had to happen? It didn't happen as quickly. I don't think it could have happened as quickly without an accomplice.
So The accomplice story, and particularly this one with Dawn and the 2 to 3 friends, where they were getting high in the basement, they came up with the idea, they went upstairs. Maybe Dawn stayed with the kids, maybe another one of the friends stayed with the kids. And then in every scenario, the father's shot, the mother's shot, and then the children are shot, and then Dawn is shot last. So this definitely makes sense from an evidence standpoint.
That there could been some
Right.
accomplice too in that,
Right.
because it happened. It happened too quickly. It has to have more people than what was said. They believe he was the only one, but he's saying, okay, I got this and that. It is possible the story would change out of fear.
Mm-hmm.
He could have been coming down from a high.
Mm-hmm.
It could be in so many things, but the truth, I think the truth is strange. won't ever happen. It's just all these theories, but maybe it we'll find out. Maybe, but that story spawned so many stories, so many movies, so many books, so many, with that. But before any of that ever happened, we have, well, there was a story that did come out about that whole thing, but a year later, a family decides to move in. The Lutz,
Yep.
the Lutz decide to move in. Now they knew what happened to that house, and it was on the market cheap because of that, at least a year, because I don't think anybody wanted to stay in a house that was just tragically turned into some kind of murder house. I don't care how much it would have cost. I don't think so.
Really? I'm thinking at that discount, you betcha. I don't care who died in this house. All right, they can still be there. $15,000? Yes. Have you seen that house? It's got a boathouse. It's on the lake.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
But the Lutz family decided to move in and check it out. Regardless of what was going on, they definitely decided to move in a year after that, and they experienced it was George and their names is George and Kathleen Lutz. They bought the house with their kids, and they decide to move in December 18th, 1975, a little over a year after the murders, and they experienced some things, but it seemed like before they even experienced anything, they had the house blessed, which raised some suspicion that they can be lying, because it just looks good on paper if they had a priest come in to bless the house, because they just wanted to sell a story. What do you think?
Well, when the Lutzes moved in, they didn't move all their things in because everything was still in the house that everyone was murdered in, still in the house. I think they changed the mattresses, but from the photos that I've seen, that's still the DeFeo house completely. So they moved in with all of the living, or the non-living, still there. Apparently George, or a friend of George's, insisted that he get the house blessed. And so that's what it was. It was not an exorcist. It was not ordained by the Catholic Church. It was a priest that came in to do a blessing.
So what do you think of why they would have the house blessed? If nothing was going on, nobody believed, why have the house blessed?
It's better safe than sorry. I don't know.
I mean,
like, oh, the blood stains just keep dripping off the wall.
I guess for $15,000. Was it 15,000?
No, I know that I know that they had a construction company. I know that they had been looking for about a year. I know that they loved the house and fell in love with it, and that it was $30,000 to $50,000 over their budget. So they were already financially strapped when they went into it. I don't remember what their religious backgrounds were, but I'm sure that I'm moving into a house that has a few dead bodies associated with it. I'm sure that my mom or my grandma's going to be like, yo, let's just get it blessed. Let's just just in case. By the way, good deal.
You know, I don't think I could ever. There's no way. There's no way. I don't care if it was $3. No, no, I couldn't do it. I could not. I couldn't do it. I'm sorry. I couldn't do it. I could. I'm just thinking. Okay, no. There's no way. There's okay for me. No way.
I've lived in 2 houses. One where a wife shot her husband and the dog and then shot herself. And in another house, it was, I had the suicide room known as the brain room. And I'm telling you, you can get some property dirt cheap on some of these.
If someone's been murdered in the house.
Yeah. And apparently during the blessing, in the book version, and according to George and Kathy Lutz, the priest heard the words "get out." So I think that the flies were added for the movie, but I believe that definitely the voice was audible during the blessing.
So could the priest be crazy too?
Aren't they all?
Well, aren't they all?
No, I have a great admiration for men of the cloth. Anyone that devotes their life to a holy order is amazing. But I seriously suspect that, I mean, if you have a family that's been killed in there, maybe they're still lingering, and you have a guy come in here that's about to like bless your children out of the room and you're going to lose them and you're a spirit, I absolutely would be telling him to get out.
Well, there's also some indication that the Lutz family was like you said, financially strapped, and they wanted to get out of the mortgage.
That is definitely one of the scenarios.
So once they were in there, they was like, oh, this is too expensive. We got to get out. But wait, people got killed here. Let's use this story.
Now, there was another story from Ronald Jr. comes and says that his lawyer approached the Lutzes with the book deal with a man named Hoffman. The Lutzes didn't like the split that was going to happen. And so the Lutzes went with, what was the name of the guy that wrote the book? Jay Anson. For the Amityville Horror. So somewhere along the line, they knew they were going to write a book. I don't know if it was to get out of financial difficulty. The IRS was also investigating them. There was a national depression going on at the time. Their construction business was not doing very well. But the majority of the legal problems that occurred were because they were suing other people that called them liars, and it backfired on them.
It just sounded like a whole bunch of problems. Even the murder that happened, it just kept going even after that. I mean, this guy, what was his name, Ronald, he got 6 life sentences. And there's a book deal, but there's a family moved in there. I need a story. They're experiencing something. They're financial. Hey, let's try to get out of it. Let's run away. I'm not staying in this house, and murder's here. But you knew that before you got in. And then it's like, let's do a book deal to help get some money. But then it's like, no, I want to write it. No, I want to write it.
The only person who made any money off of this was Jay Anson with his book. He's the only one that made money. Yeah. The Lutzes didn't make any money. I don't know if they were supposed to. I don't know if they thought they were going to, but it didn't work out.
No, they passed away. Was it 2006? Yeah, I think 2006 they passed away and still didn't have, what they were trying to get. I just think that's just. Oh, go ahead.
The Lutzes have never changed their story, not once. The Lutzes passed several lie detectors. The Lutzes were involved with Ed and Lorraine Warren. Several other investigation teams went in there. The Lutzes never returned to the house. Never returned to the house, not to pick up a single thing. And they claimed that the entity followed them to her mother's house was where they ran to.
So let's bring into the Warrens. Obviously, they got involved in some way. They believe the house was haunted, but some people think that it was a hoax. That they believe there was some haunting, but not as the way the Lutz were putting it. And you did some research up on that. So
I did.
What follows that?
I listened to the investigation from the Warrens and the files and the recordings. And Ed Warren believed, at one time he said that house was 1010 haunted, and another time he said it was 1210 haunted. They said that when they went in there, it felt like an infestation and incredibly heavy. It wasn't just one devil. It wasn't one deity or entity in there. It
Mm-hmm.
was, they believed that it was probably, they didn't say like how many they thought it was, but they definitely thought that Ronald Jr. had acted under possession, and they definitely thought that it was infested.
There was also something about that, that the house could have been either buried on or near Indian burial ground.
Now, the only time that I ever saw that was mentioned was in the Hans Holzer book, and
Mm-hmm.
he has some really good stories, but he's slightly less reputable than the Warrens. I'm not sure, but yeah, there's been no evidence that I've been able to find that there was Indian burial ground, or that per se, as the quote goes, that the Indians used to set aside their insane and their violent ones and let them die there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why is this house haunted then? If there's entities in there and the house, and they lived in the house was since 1965 before all this started happening, why not leave the house before? And two, was the house haunted prior to the Defoes moving in? I haven't found anything on that, but not to say that I didn't look thoroughly.
In 1924, John and Catherine Moynihan started building that house. They were the only people that lived in that house prior to the Defoes in 1965 moving in. I've heard both stories. I've heard that John and Catherine were not happy, and I've heard that they had no problems whatsoever. Now, when the Defoes moved in, they had a difficult family life. I heard that, from what I've read, the father was highly overbearing, incredibly my way or the highway. It's the 1970s. It's super machismo, mafia connections. They moved from New York to Long Island. He was very, very overbearing. And strangely enough, so was George Lutz. He was ex-military, very, very realistic, didn't even believe in God at the time that he moved in there, had a very hard time believing that there were any kind of entities there, and kept threatening them and calling them out with his fists, which probably escalated things immensely.
If nothing was going on with the first family that first built it and even moved in, so do you think the entities, or where you think the Defoes brought whatever there, and it just manifests over the time
I think
because of the
Ronald
violence? And
Ronald Defoe Jr. definitely had some witchcraft books, definitely had some candles, definitely had some metal paraphernalia, enjoying his drugs and probably his great record collection. um, I don't know that he summoned anything. I don't know that he was successful at anything. There is evidence that there was some dabbling going on.
mm-hmm.
Um, I think that you've got a kid that was high, was lost in the world, was being beaten by his father, was very unhappy in his situation, and had enough, and probably felt that his needs were so much more important than his parents that he was willing to kill them. What is that, like a personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, where he just felt that his needs were far more important. And I think that you had an incredibly violent action take place in that house in a very short period of time. And it may have supercharged the house. It may have left souls or entities still there. I mean, they got shot. They passed incredibly quickly and fast. Maybe they weren't ready to go. Maybe they didn't see the light. Maybe they just wanted to stay with their family, or the kids are still looking for the parents.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have an incredibly overbearing man again move in. I think it just woke something up or made something restless. I definitely believe that George and Kathy experienced something that terrified them.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, that goes back to the original slang. It's like, why the kids? It's just so heartbreaking, because it feels like the kids were so innocent, regardless of what Ronald was going through, what he felt about his dad, and or even his mom. It's like, why the kids though?
That would be the only reason that one story makes the most sense. That
That there were
Don
other
did it.
people.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
Don killed the kids. I mean, the victim was supposed to be the father without question.
Mm-hmm.
And you're shooting him right next to the wife, so now you got to do the mom in too. But I have no evidence that he hated those children.
It could be that they were old enough to remember.
They were. Let's see, they're 13, 12, and 9.
Yeah. They were old enough to remember and say, yeah, he did it. The description. Yeah. So, or not if he did it, but someone else there was did it, because I do believe that he had to have other people there.
Right.
Um,
Or, I mean, if you're a 23-year-old or you're an 18-year-old, maybe they just didn't want to be saddled by taking care of their kids now. Maybe they thought that they would like guiltily have to take care of them, and maybe it was better to just send them to a better place. Now they can go party like they want with $200,000 life insurance.
and this story has definitely brought on many books. Whether they're true or not, it doesn't matter. It brought on so many books, and it brought on movies like you wouldn't believe. I mean, Amityville II, The Possession, that one was a very interesting movie. It felt like some of the stuff in number two, I think they elaborated from the 79 movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like that. The bleeding of the walls and other stuff like that. Then we have Amityville Horror. There was another, yeah, and then 3D. I don't know why 3D would be
Why not?
important. I think the 3D is with the actual people that live there and the actual horrible event. That's a 3D enough. And then they had a remake. I mean, they had so many things about this film, about this story, but yet none of it is absolutely true. So what do you believe is the fascination of this story itself? Why do people make movies, want to write books? Just, wonder, even this house is still around.
Mm-hmm.
It's still around. It's just been remodeled, resold several times. Why not destroy the house? Why keep it? Like, why use it as this national landmark of terror? I mean, what is going on here?
It's a pretty house. Have you seen it?
It is it's a pretty house, but
2 stories.
I mean, the
house.
The house is pretty, but the bleeding walls. but since then, nothing has happened in the house. There's no reports of this house being remodeled and everything had any occurrences. What is your theory on that? What do you take on that?
The Lutzes have always maintained that it followed them. The Lutzes have always said that it followed them. The night that they went to Kathy's mother's house, they levitated. So they have always maintained that it followed them.
So the house is cleansed.
Apparently. Until the next murder.
I know nothing else ever happened in that house. It's just kind of weird that they still have this house just lingering. I personally thought they tore it down a long time ago. Girl? Wait a minute.
Hey, did I tell you I got this house really cheap?
Wait a minute. Where did that sound?
We have no idea. Now, interestingly, a lot of people that have been involved with Amityville, the book and the movie, have suffered consequences because of it. And George and Kathy always claimed that every time they talked about it, strange things would start to happen.
Okay, now that you said that, why didn't you tell me this before we start talking about it? Nah. See,
small print. Sorry,
very small print. I need a magnifying glass because I wouldn't even talk about it. Now, I do love scary things. Yes, I love horror, but there are two things that scare me: aliens and paranormal.
They might be one and the same. The man that wrote the book,
yes,
during the last chapter, he had a heart attack.
Wait,
he survived,
and he finished the chapter.
Jay Anson, he finished writing the book, and it was published. Now, when he sent that manuscript to be read by a friend, a female was proofreading the first 2 chapters and burned to death in her house that night.
Oh, so we're into spontaneous combustion right now.
Well, I have no idea what the cause of the fire was, but then he sent the script to someone else, or he sent the chapters to someone else, and that man and his son were involved in an auto collision where they ended up in the river and almost drowned, while that manuscript was in their trunk.
So the written word can be haunting. Haunted.
I'm just saying, like the movie Poltergeist, lots of strange things happen to people around that movie set. So I'm saying strange things have happened to people around this topic.
And also Poltergeist was based on several events that have happened, and they just composed it into one film. So for people out there, do not write anything that came from something that happened in real life.
Why?
Just for your safety.
These are great books, great movies. We've had some good.
Yeah, but okay. So there was something else that was significant about this. They believed between that time that you said, was it 12 to 3, that these murders could have happened. Now, a lot of them have put in 3:15, around 3:15 that this murder a.m. That this murder happened.
Research this, but I thought the witching hour was 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. I believe the devil's hour is from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And I believe from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock is known as the hour of the wolf. And I would have to look up what happens at 2 o'clock. They each of the hours has a different association with it.
Okay. Then I correct myself. I do correct myself. The witching hour is between 12 and 1, 12 a.m., 1 a.m. The devil's hour is 3 and something. Right. I know 3 o'clock is in there.
Now, a lot of events happen at 3 o'clock, strangely enough.
What is your theory on that? 3 o'clock. Why 3? Why the devil at 3? Why 3 a.m.? What is so significant about 3? Is it because things come in threes? Because that was also brought in the movie The Conjuring. 3 around. Go ahead.
A lot of paranormal investigators, and Ed and Lorraine Warren specifically, touted the theory that it was mocking the Trinity. I personally do not subscribe to that. Like most people get like 3 scratches. Most people hear 3 knocks. Strange things happen at the hour of 3. I always assumed that whatever creature was scratching you just only had like 3 claws. I don't.
You know what? That's something you say that because the poster of Amityville 3D is 3 claws.
Like, it's hard to scratch someone with your pinky claw. You could have 4 fingers, but you're not getting very much action with that last one.
Yeah, I always see that 3, the 3 a.m. or 3:15 or, the devil's hour or something. And it's just, I just think that's interesting, that also in this movie, because I watched the movie once and then I watched it again, and it's not scary. The movie, the 1975, can't even talk. Oh my God. The Amityville Horror movie, 1979, directed by Stuart Rosenberg. And the story is supposed to be based on the Lutz family, not the first family moved in and experienced this tragic event, but the Lutz family moved about a year after that. And the movie is based on their experience. However, during the movie, when they're showing them around the house, the beginning of the movie, it shows the event prior that happened before they moved in. She's like, oh, this bedroom is so nice. And then we see the shotgun blast of the kids. So, oh my God, can you imagine if we could see events that happened before we can actually move into the house, and how terrified? See, I scared myself because just now I thought the bathroom door just opened. I was about to run. I love paranormal stories, but I scared the shit out of myself. I do it all the time. And why do I talk about it? See, I could talk about anything. Except for paranormal and aliens. It got me paranoid. And now I have lights halfway off.
It's getting dark.
I know. I'm only okay. The only light is right here. If I'm telling you now, you will see me tear right from this computer so fast. And I'm the one that started this show, and I'm the scariest one here.
We have to face our fears. It's how we grow. They say it's good for us.
I'm sorry. I find this hilarious, and now I'm terrified.
I mean, imagine the Lutzes in that house, knowing what had happened there and every single thing, all the knocks that were going on. They were levitating in their beds.
I don't know how true that is, but even in the movie, the realtor was in the kitchen, putting the paperwork together. Some wind blew on the papers, and she packed up and left. But yet she sold the house and walking through it. I mean,
that's called a percentage. That's what she got. That's called
desperate times for desperate measures. Money talks and the ghost walk.
Well, the Lutzes only lasted 28 days.
28 days. That's a whole month of February.
It could not have been financial because their mortgage wouldn't have been due yet. So it had to be fear. They have always maintained that it was fear, that there were supernatural events. Their mortgage wouldn't have even been due.
I think overall they scared themselves. They thought, I can handle this. The rent's, the mortgage is cheap.
George and Kathy experienced strange, they truly believed, they said at one point that their banister exploded. The wood exploded, but there was no evidence that the banister exploded. So they were either experiencing some serious illusions,
or just like me, talk about it and scare yourself to death. I mean, who knows, right? So overall, what do you think? Do you really think Ronald Defoe Jr. did it by himself?
I think that he was the main instigator. If I were to look at all of the evidence and see where it points to, I believe that he had the idea to kill his father far in advance of the events of this night. Mm-hmm. I think that this night they did get high in the basement and they came up with the idea, let's do it. I'm not sure that he planned to do in everyone that night. He was quoted as saying, when it started, it just went so fast I couldn't stop myself. There are other quotes that he said where he changed the temperature in the house to a higher degree, thinking that it would change the time frame of the coroners so that he would have time. He knew where the rifle was. He knew where his bloody clothes were. He was definitely the person that hid those things because he knew where to retrieve them. Mm-hmm. I believe that he may have committed something that was so horrific to himself that he finds it just easy to blame others, mm-hmm. or that there were in fact others there, which would explain why he was so angry with Dawn and why there was shown a struggle or at least gunpowder on her front nightgown, that perhaps she's the one that killed the children. Although I don't know that gunpowder was found on her hands. I know it was found on her nightgown. Now, Ronald also says that he sedated them, but the coroner never found any toxicology to prove that. Mm-hmm. But the question is, how did they all just lay in their bed and not move, just waiting to be shot one by one?
When you put it that way, it sounds very scary. Well, my thoughts on that is that there were accomplices, and they were besides him doing drugs and hanging out and saying, let's do this, I do believe there was an accomplice, if not a couple of them, watching the kids and making sure they do not move while he was doing whatever. In the next room, while he killed his dad, killed his mom. And also there was 2 shots. So I don't think he was in there alone by himself, and that room included. Mm-hmm. For the kids, they were laying down, and I think someone kept telling them to don't move and lay there. And the brother could have told him that because they felt safe because of the brother, and I don't think they knew what was coming until mm-hmm. it was too late.
Yep. It makes sense.
Yeah. Was he hearing voices? Was the house haunted? I can't go on with the haunt.
Not yet.
No. Because there was not any big prior history of it. I mean, if it was, built in the 18 something and it was some kind of plantation or the house was moved because it had a history of someone was killed in the house before the Defoes moved in. Like so much, like, so many terrible things to go wrong before they moved in, then I could probably go with that. I just think he was just crazy.
I think he was just selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
I do think that the house was haunted by the time that George and Kathy got there, though.
Yeah, because see, there's a tragic event that happened.
Yep.
So when the Lutz moved in, then I can understand their story. But the Defoe, Ronald Defoe, no. I think he's just greedy and just went crazy and just like realized what he'd done and it was too late. That's my theory on that one.
And then there's the most famous and an incredibly famous ghost picture that occurred when Ed and Lorraine Warren did their research on the house, which is, I'm not sure if you can even see this. We'll go there.
Okay, why did you show me that? Now, that's not fair. That is not fair.
And that is a real picture that was taken by Glenn Campbell, who was a photographer during Ed and Lorraine Warren's time that they went through that house. And that is one of the most, one of the best picture evidence-wise that can't be explained.
Okay, that is messed up. That picture I'm going to have to post so everyone can see it.
Yes, we will.
But that is not fair. Now I'm going to have nightmares. Thanks.
And so, I mean, the picture looks very much like the youngest son that was shot. But Ed and Lorraine Warren swear that it was a demon impersonating the boy.
The most tragic event that happened in 1974, it's still unbelievable to this day. Movies are still being made. Books are still made. Theories are still out there. No one knows the truth except for Ronald. But if we would have made this show a lot sooner, we probably would have gotten a chance to talk to him because he died this year in March. Isn't that something? So the truth died with this man. And and there's no history now currently with the house. There's nothing really going on. So it's sad, but who knows? So if you guys really enjoyed this and want more stuff like this, spooky stuff that will scare me, that's the entertaining part.
Yep.
Please subscribe, please like and comment.
More Praeternatural Mysteries.
Yes, we need more of this. So that's our new name. Praeternatural Mysteries. And I got to get used to that because I know I'm going to say eventually one day horror movies and beyond. It's like, wait, what?
Which is an amazing show.
Oh, thank you. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, and comment so more spooky, scary stuff can happen like this. Thank you, Dr. Lovey, for your paranormal knowledge. I couldn't have done this without you.
I promise I won't show any spooky pictures until I tell you in advance next time.
Please, because
thank you.
Now I'm terrified. So thank you, everyone. Until next time, stay spooky. Bye, everybody.
Bye.